Hello, everyone. This is Alberto Sierra from ZABALA Innovation Consulting speaking, and I will be your host today as one of the organizers of the event. First of all, I would like to thank you for joining us. Your time is highly appreciated, and even more given the current situation that we are all living in Europe, caused by the coronavirus. So, welcome to the Altfinator's fifth webinar that will be focused on the topic of reward crowdfunding and how innovative SMEs and startups could be benefit from using this instrument. But before starting with this topic, let me briefly introduce you the project behind these webinars, Altfinator. Altfinator is an European Union funded project under the Horizon 2020 program that aims at stimulating the use of alternative finance instruments, meaning others than bank finance, and particularly crowdfunding among innovative SMEs, and especially in Southern and Eastern and Central European countries where these instruments are so far less expanded. Altfinators involves all these European partners, mainly from those southern and eastern countries, but also from countries where alternative finance is more consolidated, like in the United Kingdoms or the Netherlands or Estonia. For that aim, we have produced training materials that can be found on our website free of charge. And we have also brought together like-minded experts, policymakers, entrepreneurs, including SMEs and also finance providers, at a variety of events of all the events held in these partnered countries since the start of the project that was in May of 2018. After this short introduction about the project, let's speak now about today's webinar. We have today with us two experienced speakers who represent both sides, the supply and demand side of this financing instrument. They are a crowdfunding platform provider, Verkami, and an innovative SME, Cocoro, which successfully launched a reward crowdfunding campaign. The representative of Verkami is Jonàs Sala, who is the co-founder of this reward-based crowdfunding platform. Verkami is one of the leaders in the Spanish market and one of the three largest reward crowdfunding platforms at the European level. Since its foundation, Verkami has successfully financed more than 7,800 projects and raised more than 40 million euros thanks to a network of more than 1 million contributors. After his presentation, Mrs. Clara Guasch will take the floor. She is the co-director and head of communication at Cocoro, which is a company specialized in absorbent panties for menstruating discharge. They started in 2016 with a crowdfunding campaign using Verkami and was a total success. And also the first milestone of this project that has not stopped growing. So that the agenda for today's webinars is as follows. After my introduction, each speaker will have 20 minutes for presenting their Verkami and also Cocoro. And after that, we will have the last 15 minutes for a question and answer session with questions directly from you to the speakers. So now it's time to start with the webinar. So thank you for your attention. And now, Jonàs, please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you very much for attending this webinar in these difficult times, and thank you for the presentation. I am Jonàs Sala, and I am one of the co-founders of Verkami, and we are a crowdfunding platform based in Barcelona, which started 9 years ago from a father and his two sons. My father, which is a biologist, my brother, which is an art historian, and myself, I am a doctor in physics, and we were very fond of creativity, art, all forms of creation, and we wanted to start this platform for anyone with an idea that needed funding for becoming a reality to be able to raise these funds thanks to the contributions of many people, the small contributions. So we started this tool, Verkami. Verkami means love for creation in Esperanto, and our main goal was this one, was to make people be able to make their projects come true, thanks to these many people contributing and raising funds all together. So starting with how a crowdfunding campaign works, I will show you this example of a team from Barcelona which wanted to start some wraps that are made from organic cotton, from fabric, and bee wax. So it's a good alternative to plastic film in order to store foods or leftovers from your previous dinner, or fresh food, for example. So you can use it instead of plastic film. And in order to produce the initial unities of this product and start their project, they started this crowdfunding campaign in Verkami. So two things that are the most important in a crowdfunding campaign are the goal. They needed an amount of money in order to produce the initial units of these wraps, and they needed like this 2,000 euros, for example. So then, in order to raise this money, they have 40 days during which they have to communicate their campaign. They have to share the campaign along the internet, using social network, using email, WhatsApp, whatsoever. So all the people interested in this project can know about it and contribute to it. And how do they contribute? In this, in the right side of the crowdfunding campaign page, you can see there are some rewards, and these rewards are basically that you can buy these wraps, so they can contribute to these rewards, and hopefully enough people will contribute during these 40 days, and they will raise the money enough in order to start their project. And two things can happen at the end of these 40 days. One thing is that you can raise the money you need, in this case, these 2,000 euros. So all contributions are charged to the people that have pledged, and the author will receive the money so they can start their project. In this case, we charge the 5% of the funds raised by the campaign in order to sustain our platform and keep on going. And in the case that you don't raise the goal you set for your campaign, in this case, this 2,000 euros, nothing happens, nothing is charged to anyone, and starting your project is free. We don't charge anything for starting your project. So crowdfunding is a very good way to test, for example, the market, and to try to make it happen, your project, because you don't lose anything for trying to make a crowdfunding campaign. At least you don't lose any money, because you don't have to pay anything in order to start a campaign. So how to start a successful crowdfunding campaign? There are three main things that you have to take into account. First of all, you need to have a budget for the project you want to start. And with this budget, you will set a crowdfunding goal, a goal for your campaign that you have to reach with these 40 days of campaign, as I said before. Secondly, you need to set some rewards, and these rewards are the things you offer in exchange of the contributions of the people pledging to your campaign. And finally, to set a very good description, you have to explain very well in your crowdfunding page what is that you are going to do, how you are going to do, etc. So now I will explain these three main things that you have to take into account in order to make a successful crowdfunding campaign. So first of all, following with the example of these organic wraps, this is the budget that they set for this campaign. So as I said before, the objective in this case was to produce at least 200 units of these wraps. So mainly in all the creative projects or all the projects we work with, the budget will look something like this. It will look mainly, it will be spent in production of the thing you want to produce. For example, in this case, the wraps, or it could be the printing of a book, or it could be the producing of a movie, etc. Then there are some taxes, the costs of using the platform, and finally the shipment of all the products to the people that have pledged. So taking into account these four things, you can set a goal for your campaign so that when you finish your project, you can produce what you want to do and send all the rewards to all your backers, and you don't have to spend any extra money for this whole thing. No? The important thing here is that with crowdfunding, with a few people, you can produce more units than the ones that you are going to give as a reward to the backers. So, for example, here, they wanted to produce 200 units, but they can produce these 200 units with the contributions of maybe 60 or 100 people. So they have many more units that they can sell, and they can have a benefit. And so it is a good way to start your enterprise or your project, because you have these many more units that you can sell and you can have a benefit. So this is an important thing with crowdfunding, because you are selling directly to your backers. You are not going through a shop, for example, and then you have a very good margin. That with a few people, for example, with 100 people, you can print, for example, 500 books or 1,000 books that then afterwards you will sell, and you can have this benefit to start everything over. Secondly, the rewards. In this case, it's very important to set interesting rewards. And following with the example of the campaign for the organic wraps, the main thing they were offering, it was to get these 3 wraps, for example. It was the reward with more backers, 122. Usually you offer these products at a better price that afterwards it will be sold in the shops, for example, because it's an incentive for the backers to pledge to this campaign. And then you can offer other bundles or other packs, more complete, with other things that can be interesting for the people pledging to the campaign. So they can pledge a little bit more. They can pledge these 29 euros or 40 euros or 45 euros. And then with fewer people, you can reach your goal, which is something very interesting. In this case, they were adding, for example, in the 40 euros reward, they were adding some DIY kit in addition to the DIY kit where you wraps at home using your own file. It was very interesting, or a more which were for backers of this one with the 3 wraps, the DIY kit, and some labels to put on these wraps to know what you are storing for pasta or whatsoever. So this is the one of the most important parts to work in order to with your campaign, to have interesting and with a good offer, something that they won't get after a better price like this. And finally, you have to explain very well what you are going to do with good pictures. In this case, you could see how the wraps were made, the very nice fabrics they were using, explaining exactly how they are produced, how to take care, for example, of these wraps. You can only wash it with water after using, and then you can just let it dry and use it again. Very last. And this behind, we are only explaining this project through this website in Verkami in this case. So it's important for the people visiting this project to know who is behind, so we can build trust and with ourselves, and this is why it's important to know the team behind this project. And finally, to explain the timetable of the project, because this is not Amazon that will receive this product in 24 hours, for example. In this case, it's some people which is raising money to produce something. So it will take some time between our contribution and the time we'll receive these rewards, these wraps in this case. So it's important to explain all the procedures that will go between the campaign and the time that we'll receive the rewards at our house. And then once we have everything set, we have the goal, we have the rewards, we have the description, we have all our crowdfunding page set in a platform. Then the 40 days start, and this is one of the main things, is that we have to communicate our campaign, to share the link of our page in all the possible channels and networks, etc., to make it known to the interested people, so they visit our page and they pledge to one of the rewards. During these days, we have like an e-commerce, so we have a conversion, and you can see here the conversion of visits of the campaign in contributions for crowdfunding projects in Verkami. For example, in Facebook, it's 3% of the visits convert usually in contributions. In Twitter, a bit less, and in Instagram, yeah, it's around 2% as well. So we have to find the right channels and work hard during these 40 days in order to make our campaign known and raise enough funds to make it happen and to reach this goal. Sorry. So this is a typical crowdfunding campaign. You can see in the 40 days and how the goal was increasing every day. And you can see that in this case, it was a campaign for a book on how to start your business. And this guy was maintaining an amount of contributions of around 25, 30 per day. This is very difficult, but this guy was really working every day in communicating his campaign in order to keep it going. So it was his daily job to really promote his campaign during these 40 days. Every day he was doing something to promote his campaign. For example, sharing it on social networks, setting up some Facebook ads, or calling some friends, or contacting an co-working space, or so on. No? So he was really planning in advance before launching the campaign what he will be doing in these 40 days. And as you can see, it was very successful. He needed a minimum amount of 5,000 euros, and he really surpassed it, and he got like 2,000 backers. So he already got this benefit from the campaign. It's not the case always, but in this case, he was already making a benefit from the campaign, because he was selling much more of the minimum amount of money that he needed in the beginning. So to summarize some key points of how or why crowdfunding is useful for starting your project. In this case, with a few backers, we can produce more units. No? It was this idea I was telling before with setting your goal for your campaign. With a few backers, 100 of them, you can produce much more units of whatever you are producing. So then you can have this benefit and start your project. All costs are already covered, as I said before, with the goal as well. Once you finish your project, all the costs are already covered. So this reduces the risk of starting anything a lot, because you don't have a loan that you have to give back. You have the money to start your project. And if you don't sell these more units that you have produced, nothing happens, because you have already paid for all the costs already. On the other hand, if you ask for a loan at a bank, you produce your product, and then you cannot sell any of the products that you have made. Then you have a problem, no? Because you have the loan to give back. It's not the case with crowdfunding, because all the costs are covered by the campaign, and is as well a good way to test the market. No? In this case, I will explain another case that exemplifies very well how to test the market with a crowdfunding campaign. In this case, is a team from Catalonia, which wanted to make an escape room in a wine. No? So the idea is that there are some clues in the label and in the taste of the wine that give you some clues to solve an enigma. And in this case, they set this campaign, and they were thinking of selling this product to people, to gourmet people. It had a bit high price. They set this campaign, and the campaign was not successful. But through the campaign, they saw that the people interested in this project was the game board fans, the people that likes board games. And these people is usually younger people than the gourmets, and they are not willing to spend so much money in a game. So what they do, they reduced the costs of producing this product, and they changed the design of this product, no? So to make it more appealing to the board game fans. And they started a new campaign, and now they knew exactly where they had to communicate their project. It was not the gourmet people, it was the board game fans, and they have their own social networks and channels and so on. So communicating this project with a lower price and in the right channels, they made this successful campaign. And as you can see, they reached more than they needed to produce this minimum amount of units. So it was a very good way to have a better product, thanks to financing it through crowdfunding, no? Because they exactly knew after the campaign how they have to keep on selling this product and which people will be interested in it, and they have a better product after this crowdfunding experience. And to give you an idea of other things that you could fund, for example, this notebook for left-hand people, which is something very different that you would know in advance if it could be interesting or not, or you would sell anything if you produce 1,000 and then you maybe don't sell anything. But in this case, he tried it, and it was successful. It was more than 600 people that were interested. So he demonstrated that it was a good idea and that there were people interested in it. For example, another project, it's this Ethical Time, which is an application where you can find shops or of clothes nearby you that sell clothes ethically made. This is the design project where this Gemma Izumi made this product that helps people which is not experienced to give massage, that feels almost like a professional massage. Or this tool that can measure blood oxygen saturation and your heart rate anywhere, anytime, and that can be used for professional athletes or trainers and so on. And of course, all kind of creative projects. These are some of the categories that we work with at Verkami, so anything can be funded almost with crowdfunding, reward crowdfunding, like musical projects, design projects, projects that helps the community, comics, and all kinds of design, film, board games, etc. Even science and technology, we have a lot of science and technology projects as well. And finally, to give an idea of what has happened in Verkami in these 9 years, well, as it was said at the beginning, we are approaching the 8,000 projects funded successfully with these 40 million euros raised. And the most amazing thing is this: the 1.1 million backers that have pledged to projects of people that they don't directly know. So it's really impressive for us even today to see that many people trusting each other. It's something nice in the days we are living. And the success rate in our case is one of the highest ones in comparison to other platforms. This 75% of success rate. So more than 3 out of 4 projects that we publish, they raised the money they were asking for. So in this case, it's because we help each and every one of the creators to make like a good rewards, to set a good goal, to help them how to communicate their project. So this is why we have this high successful rate. And to summarize the experience of launching a crowdfunding campaign, hopefully we'll have this 40 days, which is short time, where we'll raise the necessary amount of money to launch our project. But there is a lot of work before, like in a rocket launch, there's a lot of work put into it, like planning your communication, planning your crowdfunding campaign page, setting a good goal, etc. So it's worth it because you can try it and you can start your campaign, but it's also hard work preparing it, and some hard work has to be put in advance in order to have a successful campaign. And so this is everything I wanted to tell, and hope we can discuss a bit more in the questions. And I leave it with Clara, that will explain his experience starting his very successful project with us, and that was funded in 2016, but it's still going with very good health. So thanks a lot for your attention. I leave it to Clara.
Thank you very much, Jonàs. I'm going to give the floor to Clara now. Now, Clara, you should be able to share your screen. Yeah, that's it.
Hello?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so thank you very much, all of you, for being here, and to Altfinator for having us here. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Jonàs, as well, for your interesting presentation. We are indeed one of these successful cases Jonàs was mentioning. I'll go back to the very beginning, but very briefly, right before being Cocoro, myself and my 3 partners had this company, Fanflair, and we sold menstrual products and in general like feminine hygiene products. And we had that idea of creating menstrual panties. Now, some of you may have heard about menstrual panties, some of you may be using them already. Back in 2016, this was just an idea. By doing our research, we found out that there was a company in the States and a company in Australia creating period panties, but there's nothing in Europe. And so, yeah, basically our idea was enough menstrual pads. Menstrual pads are products that many women use or have used or will use. And we still haven't found a single woman who likes them, right? So we said it's time for a new product, and this new product was reusable panties that would be absorbent. So what we did was go from the idea to the prototype. With our own resources, that's our own money and our own time, we created these prototypes of absorbent, breathable, comfortable, and reusable knickers. Now, once we knew the product worked, once we knew it, we were fascinated by it, and some testers were as well, it was time to see if we could scale it, we could actually turn it into a real project and make this product available to everyone. So obviously it was time for finding funding, right? And we basically had, theoretically, we had 3 options. We could go to a bank, we could talk to investors, or we could go for a crowdfunding. So what happened with banks was that banks are happy with people who have money, but not with people who don't have money. So we were required. We needed bank guarantees, because we didn't have money ourselves, right? And this was something we weren't too keen on. And obviously, money has to be given back with high interest rates usually. Something similar happens with investors. We had to give a lot of money back with high rate interests, or sell part of the company. In that case, that wasn't really an option, so we couldn't go for that. We didn't want to go for that either. So we know about these crowdfunding campaign things, and basically the idea of many people spending small quantities of money and helping create that reality was a very appealing idea. We could actually pre-sell our product, and the risk wasn't zero. I would slightly disagree with Jonàs here. It's not a zero risk, but it's certainly a very smaller risk, right? So we know crowdfunding was the way to go for us. What it offers, why did we go for crowdfunding? It's not just because the other 2 alternatives weren't good for us, but because we saw it as a way to get funding. As Jonàs said, it's a way to test the market. It's to validate our idea. Was it just us who were mad about this product, or was it an idea that was really appealing to a big part of the population? We could also get feedback on our product, because by playing a bit with the rewards, we could see, well, what were the product preferences, right? We had different models, and we could actually see if people preferred one model over another. We could see whether the price we had in mind was reasonable, would work. We could leverage as well our product recommendation. People could start talking about it, and very importantly, we could create a community, and this was very important to us. I think it's important for every company, but the sense of community was also important from a kind of philosophical point of view in our case. So with the crowdfunding option, what we saw was not just a funding opportunity, but a marketing opportunity. And this is one of the main ideas I'd like to convey, because crowdfundings, I find, are as much about funding as about marketing and testing the market, getting to know your audience, etc. Now, this is what crowdfunding offers, but it also it takes quite a lot of time. It takes quite a lot of money, and it takes specialized knowledge. And Jonàs mentioned that before. He mentioned a couple of cases where people really were, working hard on the campaign, and that pays, that shows. It's very different to just use the platform or work on the campaign so that people actually go to the platform and back your project. So what we realized is that in order to do the crowdfunding, we had to take a loan, because we wanted to make sure that campaign was successful. And there's a lot of specialized knowledge put in there. It's not easy to just have an idea and then have some post in your social media, etc. It just takes specialized knowledge, time, and money. So we decided to go for it very, very seriously. So just a very brief view of our goals and results, so that you know what we're talking about, and then I'll tell you about the details of the campaign. Our goal was to produce 1,500 Kokoro panties in order to be able to start an online an e-commerce site and start selling them. So we needed 21,560 euro. Instead, we actually got nearly 170,000 euro. We had to produce then 9,000 Kokoro panties, and we had like more than 3,000 backers. So that was a great success. It was also a bit of a shock for us, and I'll tell you more about it. So Jonàs also mentioned that it is very important to focus on what you have to do before the crowdfunding campaign. The first thing is to pick the platform. We picked Verkami because of their success rate, but also because we were focusing on a national audience, and it works, or at least back then, it worked very well at national level. We also had to set our goals. And what we wanted was the minimum budget necessary to start production, and we also had to think of the initial rewards, right? Of course, we all think about like what the backers will want, but it's also important to pick your rewards, taking into account what you want to validate, and also trying to not make your lives too difficult. And this is something that, again, I'll tell you a bit more about it later. We did specify the first rewards, trying to make things easy for ourselves, but then we kind of lost control as the campaign kept going and being more and more successful every day. So this is important with the rewards, when you set your rewards, just to make sure that you can actually produce them, and that you're ready to give those rewards. Now, a very, very, very crucial point before the crowdfunding campaign is to get the basics, set the basics for the communication campaign, right? Be very clear about your goals, not your goals as from a funding point of view, but your goals in your communication. What is it? What are your key messages? What is it you want everyone to know and to understand about your project, or to feel how you're going to convey your identity? What is your identity as a company? How are they going to relate with your identity, with your company, right? how are people going to feel with your messages and identity. Obviously, you need to think very well who you're talking to, and not fall in the very typical error, which in our case was very, very tempting to say, oh, you know, we're talking to all women because all women menstruate. No, you have to specify your target a bit more, and also be clear about the channel, the communication actions and materials you need. Now, you need a proper video, you need proper photos, you need proper social media ads in the campaign. So this makes a huge difference if all this is prepared and ready or not. So now during the crowdfunding campaign, you have to keep working. You have to work online, as I said, with social media, influencers, blog, and the blog in the Verkami platform was very useful as well. But we also worked offline. We worked with press and radio. We created a showroom because we knew that the first 48 hours are crucial. So if you get a lot of backers or a big percentage of your goal in the first 48 hours, it's very likely that your crowdfunding campaign will succeed, because people are happy to invest when other people have invested. We all like being part of a successful project. So yeah, this is really how it works. But again, with the rewards, this is what I was mentioning before. As your campaign goes on, and if you reach your goal, and you may say, okay, now if we reach this other goal, we'll do this, and if we reach this other goal, we'll do that, so that you keep your project going and growing. And we did that, but this is where we kind of lost a little bit of control, in that we forgot that we had to make our lives easy, and instead we made our lives a bit difficult, because we said, yeah, so we'll have colors, and we'll have a new model, and we'll have a washing bag, and these were all ideas that we were adding, that we were deciding without a lot of without having time to actually sit and think. We even said, yeah, we'd do exercises, because we were so happy everything was going so well that we didn't even link the exercises to a specific goal, but we said we'd do it. And all this resulted in a very difficult times afterwards, which went well in the end. But yeah, I think this is the second very important message I'd like to give, which is like, be ready for after the crowdfunding, right? So yeah, what is it that we got from the crowdfunding? I mean, we as we said before, we did validate our idea, right? We saw that our product was indeed something women were willing to try. We confirmed that our price was adequate. We created a community that is still growing, and we did manage to create that sense of community, of being part of something that didn't exist before, and people do feel, yeah, I back that project, and this product now exists in part because I backed it. Right? So we did get enough funding to move from prototypes to real production, which was obviously one of our main goals. We also got this new unexpected challenge of having to create 9,000 units instead of 1,500. So everything changed very quickly. But it was a challenge, and it was interesting, and it was luckily we managed, and we learned an awful lot out of the experience at many different levels. I think the most important lesson we learned, and that I'd like to share with you today, is that it is extremely important to get ready for the post campaign, for what comes after, because it's kind of easy to think, yeah, you have to get ready before the campaign, and yeah, you have to be there during the campaign. But once you're in front of that much work, you know, you have to do so much before and during the campaign that you kind of not pay too much attention on after the campaign, and that's very important. In our case, but something I think it's good for you to think about is how you will collect your data from your backers. In our case, we realized our product was a bit different maybe from other products in that it had many sizes. People had to pick between, you know, many sizes, many colors, many options, and collecting the data then from each backer, what it was exactly they wanted to claim as a challenge. And so it would have been good to know exactly, to think about, okay, how are we going to collect that data, and what is the platform providing in that sense, and what needs to be done in order to make our life easy afterwards. Then yeah, I think we're, you know, you have to get ready in a way if the project doesn't work. Jonàs was saying you don't lose much, or you don't risk much if in the end the project doesn't work. But I think you have to be very prepared as well for unexpected success. We were not prepared for that. We managed in the end, but it was tricky. And I think you have to be ready. Like, will your plan of action still be valid if you have to produce many more units? Will your timings, when you tell your backers that they'll have the product at a certain more time, will this be possible if you have an unexpected success, etc. Right? So just be ready. What will happen if things go extremely well? And as well, just make sure that you know you're aware of all the conditions, like from after the campaign. We had some little troubles with some of the payment options we had. They wouldn't be ready to give us the money before the production. It's okay, everything was solved in the end, but I think it is very important, yeah, to focus on the after campaign. So just 3 years later, all this happened in 2016. We're very happy with how things went then, and we're very happy with how the project has grown. In fact, the company where the project started with Femflare, now we have the company Cocoro, which is separated from Femflare, and Cocoro is growing and had to grow. And again, we were facing the problem or the challenge of getting funding. Okay, once we had the company up and running, this company needs to grow and expand, and this means money again. So we went for a crowd equity campaign because we really like the crowdfunding experience. So we decided to do a crowd equity campaign, and our goal was to raise 300,000 euro. We managed to get 134% of our goal. So that was again very, you know, a very, very good experience for us. Why did we go for that? Well, because we knew we had a community that was committed and that felt part of the project, and we wanted to open the door to those people to be part of the company. As well, we wanted to keep our project as open to people as possible, and at the same time run it our own way. We didn't want just one single investor to put a lot of money and start rolling the house, and we had started as a community, and we wanted to keep as a community. And then we also we know that if we wanted to grow internationally, we had to start having an international community. So this is why we picked a platform, an international platform this time, which is Crowdcube. And as well, we also knew that we wanted to have as many female investors as possible in our case, and we found out that women tend to invest more in crowd equity campaigns than in other traditional ways. So I just have to say that while the percentage of women investing in crowd equity campaigns or crowd equity projects it tends to be at 20% of female investors. We manage 38% of female investors, so that was an extra success of that campaign from our point of view. So yeah, basically, Fanfare Kokoro, we've together with Verkami, with Crowdcube, what we're focusing on there is this sense of community, this idea of creating together. So it's not just about money, which is extremely important, and it's the basis, but it is as well a lot about creating together with other people. So yeah, I hope you found that interesting. I'm here for any questions you may have. Again, thank you very much to all of you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clara. It was a really nice presentation with useful advice for all the entrepreneurs and SMEs who are thinking of launching a crowdfunding campaign. Now it's time to a Q&A session. We have just 10 minutes, and please feel free to raise your hand, to virtually raise your hand through the platform, or to write your questions in the chat box. Actually, we have 2 questions, one for Clara and 2 for Jonàs, indeed. So, Jonàs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do entrepreneurs launch successful campaigns for successful finding runs, which means that if there are entrepreneurs that launch more than one crowdfunding campaign in your platform.
Yeah, indeed, it's the case. In the last years, like 30% of our creators in the last year, for example, were people which had already done a successful crowdfunding campaign with us. So, and it's the case, for example, of these guys I was showing of the escape room in a wine. After this first initial campaign, they did another one for another enigma, different enigma in a wine as well, and then for a beer enigma, which was an enigma in a beer bottle. So yeah, for sure. The important thing, as Clara was saying, is that once you make a crowdfunding campaign, you start growing a community around your project. And the second time you make a crowdfunding, it's much more easier because you have already all these people that if they are happy with the experience and with the product they have received, they for sure will contribute again. And then the wall is much lower and it's much more easier the second time you do a crowdfunding. The thing is that it has to be for a different project, in this case. And in the case that you want to grow your project, it would be more the experience like Clara was telling. Then you have to maybe think of another kind of crowdfunding tool, no, not the reward crowdfunding. But if you have different projects that you want to launch, for example, a new model of the Cocoros, for example, you could set another campaign, and for sure it would be successful.
Okay. And second question is, how do you manage to maintain your success rate in your platform? Is there any strict selection procedure for projects?
Yeah, the success rate is more, we understand, is not because we are not like letting people to start their projects, but because we are there's always a people from our team, a person from our team which is working with the creators in order to make a successful campaign, no? In order to help them set good rewards, to set a nice description. And we see that from the initial project that we receive to the project that is published, it really changes a lot through this conversation with the persons, the people in our team, and projects are really growing through our well, yeah, we are with our following, no? So we understand that we can share our knowledge of how a crowdfunding campaign works with all the creators, and this makes that the campaigns are more successful. We talk a lot, for example, in how to set a goal, which is according to your possibilities, no? So maybe you can think of of printing 1,000 or 500 books, no? So we help to set a goal which you can reach with the community you have already, and so on, no? So yeah, that would be the case, no?
Okay. And indeed, the third question that is for Clara is related to the thing that you have already said, to the goals. What happens if you raise much more money than your initial goal, and therefore a higher number of rewards are needed to be produced? And how do you manage if it exceeds your initial production capacity?
Yeah, this is exactly what happened to us. And well, the first thing that happens is that you get a shock. And the second thing that happens very quickly after that is that you start working like mad in order to find a solution. So what happened in our case is that we had it all planned to be able to produce 1,500 units, but obviously the people, the workshops that were going to do that were not ready to produce 9 times that. So we had to look for other places to produce the products. We had to look for a logistics service in order to distribute all those sold panties, and it was hard work, and it was dangerous. Like we could have failed there, and it would have been a big problem, but luckily we did find solutions. This is why I insisted so much in the presentation on getting ready, because yeah, because this is one of the dangerous things. We did as well communicate quite often, or we tried to with our community, telling them that because of the extreme success, we just simply were not able to meet the timings we had planned. So they had to wait way more than they had been told at the beginning. But in general, people were extremely understanding, and I think they were happy to be part of that great success. So yeah, well, yeah, I guess, I don't know, Jonàs will answer that. I guess you can, I don't know, can you stop a campaign before the 40 days if it's getting out of hands?
Yeah, you could stop it if it's getting, if it's too much, not for you. The thing is that well, maybe, well, the problem is not the money, no, I guess, because if you sell more through the campaign, more than these units that you have planned at the beginning, every reward you are selling after you reach your goal, which would cover for the minimum costs of this production, then you have a big margin. So there is no problem in theory with the money to produce more units. Then there is all these production problems that could happen if you have to scale this production 10 times or 9 times. But at least you have the funding anyway, at least in theory, to produce much more units, because you have covered the minimum costs, and then every reward is giving you enough margin to produce another unit. In this case, if you are selling it for 5 euros, it costs you 3, so then you have enough margin to produce these more units that you are selling. So in theory, it's not a problem, but there are all these things that you were commenting. But in most of the projects, it's not a problem. In the case of a book, for example, that I was saying, you can, with 100 people, you can produce 500 books. If you reach the minimum amount, then you start selling books of these, these other ones that you are producing, and then it's just a profit for the author. So every book you sell after the 100 backers, then it's profit for the.
Yes, but things can get complicated, because it's not just the production. You're totally right with the production, but it's also the distribution. So it's not the same. If you plan to I don't know, create 500 books and you send them from your home, or if you have to distribute, I don't know, 10,000. So it does it can get complicated, but yeah, it's still good news. But you have to get ready, because there are many aspects involved.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any more question in the chat box, so thank you very much indeed to Jonàs and Clara for this webinar. And then, if there are no more questions, it means that the webinar is coming to its end. Before you leave, please do fill the short survey that will appear as a pop-up once you close this webinar video. It will not take you more than 1 minute, and your answer will be very useful for us to assess and improve the impact of these webinars. Finally, I want to thank you again to the speakers, and thank you all for the attendance to the webinar in this strange situation that we are all living, and also for your participation in the Q&A session. And I look forward to meeting you again in the next Altfinator activities. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks.